And we're online. Let me check the levels. I think this is about right. So yeah, here we go. I'm starting already in the middle of an RPG piece that I begun on off stream yesterday. It was just a time where it didn't really make sense to be on. So yeah, just having some coffee, and I'm going to finish this one. Oop, I have the wrong thing. I made a little channel trailer. Not even a proper one. I just recorded for like 30 seconds speaking, just to have something up. Where is it? Here we go. RPG mission. Yep. All right. So yeah, I like this one. She's looking kind of crazy right now because she has her pupils but not irises. She will have, I just prefer to do that with color. It's a little easier to get them right. So right now she looks kind of insane, but that's not the final look. We have some Fire Emblem music in the background. It's kind of my go-to for RPG style stuff. That's just a really good playlist. But I should put together more of a library whenever I don't have that much time to look for something. I actually wanted to be on a while back. I'm kind of late, so I just put on one that I know I like. Yeah, I was busy with my other job up until now. Just got to draw for the first time today. So yeah, this is a gnome bard. We have some images here, which is, except for this one, which is very cartoony. She's pretty skinny, so you can't really tell how small she is. She just kind of looks like she has a big head in this drawing, but it's not. So it can look like it's just stylization. It's just cartoony style where she has a big head, but she's actually this small. I'm thinking what to do with her collar. There you go. Flagenswag, what's up? How are you doing? I'm just doing some more commission work. I already started with this one almost done. So I'll see after this what I'll do. get started on something else. Can show you guys. Doing how are you? Pretty good. She looks very cute. Yeah, I really like her design, and I'm happy with how the drawing came out. She has pretty divergent appearances here, and on the notes they added some stuff that's not in any of these, but I just kind of picked and chose between these what I liked. But yeah, some stuff changed. She has this bun now, and the gray streak's supposed to be a bit bigger on her hair. So yeah, I really like her design. But I kind of made an amalgam of the different designs when it came to the clothes, since they gave me a very vague description of the clothes. So I got to decide how to do it. I always enjoy having some leeway with the character design. I like designing characters, and just as an artist, you usually know the kind of stuff you're good at, or you just have some kind of, artists tend to have a certain type of characters that they draw more. So if you let an artist draw on their style, it's probably going to be a little bit better in general, because they'll draw what they're good at. I'm still setting up stuff on Twitch. There's just so much to it. There's so much that you can personalize and change. But I'm just doing it a little bit every day, or every day that I get to mess with it. I have a lot of stuff to get together on my online presence. I want to fix Twitch up. I have to upload. I have such a big backlog to upload to social medias. Like Twitter is the only one that's really up to date, because it's the main one I'm using right now. Tumblr is a little behind, and then Instagram and DeviantArt are just disastrously behind. So I got a lot of housekeeping to do with my online presence. I'm also thinking of changing my profile pictures, because I liked how the color version of my little head here turned out, and I feel like I've been long enough with the other color scheme that I can now I try not to just fully change my profile picture, so people still know who I am. They don't get confused about who's that person. I don't remember following them, because I worry I might, if I post something that's not someone, the person followed me, and then I post something that's not really their thing, and I do it in a new profile picture, they might not even know who that is, and be like, oh, I don't remember following this person, I don't like this so much, I'm going to unfollow. Which is fair enough. So I want to always, for people to, know who that is. Like my name is just unreadable to people, so it's consequently pretty easy to forget as well. And so I'm careful about updating my profile picture. Yeah, lots of stuff to do. Another thing I wanted to do is just make a Google Docs document for commissions, so I can be really specific and put a bunch of different categories and stuff in there, and then I just make like a little ad that people can click, and it has like the main prices, a few of them, something like that, but then they click it and it just takes them to a more comprehensive list. I've been wondering, how do you pronounce your name? I found several on Google. Yes, so Portuguese is kind of a really tough. That's why I don't mind people not pronouncing it quite right. Portuguese has a lot of sounds in it that people sometimes have a hard time imitating, making it in their own voice. So the way you say my name is Guilherme. Guilherme. There's a L sound in there. L plus, this is unequal, plus H does L in Portuguese. So it's Gui, you don't really pronounce the U, it's just like Gui. Yer. Me. And it's the Portuguese version of William or Guillaume in French, or Guillermo in Spanish. Most languages have something, like some version. The Portuguese one's pretty annoying to pronounce. I actually put a little thing, I just created a little profile thing down there and started thinking, hey, what's up, Orlek? Yeah, I just did a little profile thing down there where I wrote I tried to write in English volumes. It was actually one of my friends in chat who once said one of my real life friends was in chat, and they tried to help people pronounce it. I think we had raided someone and they were trying to help the person pronounce it. Then he wrote it as Gil Yer Me, because I think this is easier for people who speak English to pronounce, like Guilherme. Even if this isn't the real syllable separation, when you pronounce it all at once, it goes Guilherme, and that's close enough to Guilherme. So I actually put it down there. If you scroll down, it should, like when the stream is on, I believe, like the thing with the add-ons and stuff should just be automatically down there, and the first thing should be a little profile thing that I made for myself. Just testing out, like creating custom things. You get to make custom images, and this is something I only didn't do out of inertia, because I think you don't have to be affiliate or anything to do your own little custom thing that you can click. Sounds like the name in Spanish, Guillermo. Yeah, just before you came in, I was actually wondering whether you were in already, because it takes a second for the ticker to change. I mentioned that yes, it's the same thing as Guillermo, it's the same thing as William in English and Guillaume in French. They're all the same name. Wilhelm in German. They're all the same name, that just changes a lot based on how people, the transition from language to language just changed it a bunch, but there are names that changed more. Like the name James is, I believe, is Thomas. Like in most Latin languages. But James, for some reason, it's Thomas, like the apostle, and like Jesus' brother, which are two different Jameses, but I don't know how they made that transition. But in old times it was really tough. There was no phonetic alphabet or anything like that. People are just communicating to writing across languages that a lot of them have never actually heard spoken. So a bunch of stuff got completely messed up in translation. James sounds like Jaime in my language. Yeah, I think James kind of came back. There's a lot of names, Jaime and stuff like that in Portuguese as well. But I think if it's like Thiago went to English, became James, came back as like Jaime and stuff like that. There's also like the old angel name. That's Miguel in Spanish and Miguel in Portuguese. But it's Michael. And I actually looked it up recently. Like in Hebrew, it's like Mikael. So it's definitely a k sound, and like not a G at all, but it's like a G in Portuguese and Spanish. But anyway, then there was like Michael Jackson, and a bunch of people in Portuguese now are called like Michael or Maicon and stuff like that from the English version. Like I have a friend whose name is like Maicon. It's like the way you'd hear Michael, kind of like if you speak Portuguese, how you would write it out phonetically if you heard Michael in English. So there's a lot of, back and forth where the different versions come back to other languages. It's like Game of Telephone, yeah, basically, because they really had no idea how stuff was pronounced. There's also Japan, which is like it's with a J in most languages. Like in Portuguese it's Japão, in English Japan, but it's Nippon. Like they say Nippon with a very clear N. But I think the reason that got so messed up, because like N and J couldn't be further apart as consonants, it's because like Japan was isolated for a long time, but Europeans had contact with China, and they had like Chinese interpreters, and like the letter they used, like the ideogram, because their letters, like the main alphabet, is not phonetic; it's about meanings. Like phonetically, it was read with like a J in Chinese. So it was like the Chinese pronunciation of those letters, something like that. Like it was something true Chinese that messed up how Europeans got the name. So they just called it, they just said it with a J for a really long time without, most people would just read about it and they never heard a Japanese person pronounce the name of their country, so they just thought it was with a J for so long that it just stuck. And now we have like this opposite thing. In Brazil it's very common. I think that I just mentioned with Michael and stuff like that. There are a lot of people, especially lower income people, really like naming their children names that kind of come from English, but they usually only have they only hear the names, they don't read them so much, or they don't want to be confusing to people and write something in a different language, so they just write stuff out phonetically, and often in a kind of misheard version, that those aren't even like the right phonemes in English either. But yeah, it's kind of the opposite. In old times you only got the writing, now you get the sound as well, so people do like right sound, wrong writing. just short. It was just short sleeves. Kind of thought that she had a thing where it was like those old medieval things where it's loose on the top of the arms, like loose, and then it's like tight around the forearm. Kind of thought it was this, but I guess not. It's just one of those where it cuts off right here, and then it's just skin. So I need to change it a little bit. Just gonna shade this. There you go. In my country there are a lot of Bryans instead of Brian. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that's basically the same idea. Wonder why Brian specifically, but yeah. He's usually, there's some kind of celebrity or something with that name. So yeah, I was telling you earlier in your stream that one time I just streamed on mute for a really long time, and yeah, it was right after Metroid Dread was announced and had its trailer, and I was like, okay, I need to kind of talk about this on stream, because if you guys don't know, a while back one thing that I made that was fairly popular was like a speculative, like made up sequel to Metroid Fusion. Kind of the idea slash joke being that Nintendo was never going to make a sequel to Metroid Fusion because it had been 20 years. The target audience wasn't alive when Metroid Fusion came out. It's not a game that Nintendo, gives a lot of love to. It's not like they re-released it or anything. It's just kind of there in the GBA, really low resolution. It's not likely for people to play it again. So I thought, okay, they're just going to make Midcoast forever. Fusion's just going to sit at the end of the timeline. But a few months later, they went ahead and announced Dread. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go on stream, I'm going to draw something like related to Metroid Dread, and I'm going to talk about it. And I was doing that for like half an hour, talking, and it showed up on my feed just fine. Like I was talking in the microphone, and Streamlabs, OBS, like it showed the levels. It was actually my first. Yeah, that's what I was mentioning, because it was similar to what happened to you. It was actually the first time I used to do this. It was the first time where I didn't do a little audio test where I just hit record and then talked over the music just to make sure that you could hear me over the music. But because I was kind of trying to go online as soon as I could, I just skipped that because I could see the levels and they looked fine. And yeah, something had happened where it wasn't registering my microphone, so people couldn't hear me. And I thought it was really weird because people were coming in, like I saw in the numbers that people were coming in, but I was just getting worse retention than ever, which I thought was really weird considering, usually I'm drawing like an OC commission that's not that interesting to most people. Like a lot of my followers are Metroid fans, and I was drawing fan art, usually that gets more attention. It's like, what's up? Why are people like just come in and come out? Like there are some people that just were on the whole time. I guess they figured it was a no audio stream, because it never went to zero. It was always 1 or 2. I don't know to what extent they were circulating, but yeah. But they wouldn't, respond or talk in chat, and I was just, carrying the whole conversation. I was like, oh, I really didn't think this would happen in this one. Like I thought this one would be people would want to engage. And then, yeah, after a long time, like someone mentioned in chat Oh, I think they don't have mic on or something like that. And yeah, then I was like, oops, I've been streaming for like half an hour. And then for the rest of the stream I was wondering, did I say this? Because like all the points I had to make about the trailer and stuff that I wanted to talk about. Every point I was wondering, did I mention this before or after sound actually started working? Because I was talking the whole time and I had like a bunch of stuff that I wanted to say. And I didn't know what I had and hadn't said. So that was really dumb. Was it before you set up you were talking Avatar? I'm wondering now, was it? I think it was. Yeah, I think I just had a picture at the edge of the screen. It was a fairly early stream. And yeah, for a while I just had like a little drawing. Again, just for hoping that people would like recognize it. Because my name isn't really easy to remember, so I just wanted to have like the whole theme of the display was based on my avatar. It was like my avatar on the edge, and the bar on the bottom of the screen where I wrote what I was working on was the same pattern as I had in the background of my profile picture. I just wanted it to be really clear who it was, so if anyone follows me on Twitter or Tumblr or whatever, they would know who that is. By now, I'm a little more comfortable just giving the stream its own identity. Yeah, I tried to repeat the same story because I was already tired of it and skipped/forgot some details, yeah. No, but she told it fine. I just realized I forgot her other earring, so I'm going to fix that right now. That really sucks, man. Oilek was talking on his stream that basically a Nintendo store, like an official Nintendo store that had like a eBay equivalent, like it's not eBay, but it's a site that works like eBay. Like had a store in there, and they basically messed up in that they listed Skyward Sword HD themed Joy-Cons for the price of just the game Skyward Sword HD, and then they like he even asked if that was right. They said it was right, and then they just changed the name of the product to be Skyward Sword HD and pretend like that's what he bought. That was really just terrible service. Like first they messed that up, and second they like instead of owning up to their mistake and being like, oh okay, sorry, we sold Joy-Cons cheaper than they should be. Like another biggest loss a business can have for a mistake they made. Instead of that, they decided to just scam them by deleting comments, changing the product in the page, and just shipping the thing that person didn't want to buy. It's pretty awful. Yeah, thankfully I never had a problem buying stuff used. This one it wasn't even used, it was just in a website where there's also people selling stuff used. But yeah, I bought most of my games for a long time, physical games. I used to buy them there. I bought my Wii games there. I just buy them used because they got so much cheaper. Like if you just wait a couple of years after a game comes out and buy it used, you buy it for like a fifth of the price or something, and yeah, I just always thought it was worth it. Like I'm fine waiting a little bit. There are a lot of games where I was like, I need to play it right now. Just like Smash Bros and Metroid and stuff like that, I was a real big fan of. Not Other M though. I waited, I don't know, like 8 years to play the one. I just ignored it, like it looked awful, and I was like, okay, I don't need to play it. And eventually I just played it out of curiosity and was like, yep, it's pretty bad. Yeah, it was terrible, but now such a funny anecdote. Yeah, definitely, you know. You can leave them a rating of 0 on Mercado Libre. Because I would also only buy stuff from people who had 100% rating. Because plenty of people do. I'm still messing with stuff. I just found, like I mentioned, I just found the thing where you can host other streams when you're offline, and I think it's on now. Whenever I'm offline, it should randomly pick between like 5 people who I put on a list, if they are online. If not, it's just going to be like my channel trailer, I think. Okay, coming back to the Metroid Dread topic, I was losing my mind with the trailer. Yeah, the trailer was really good. It seemed really nice, and this is from someone who didn't actually like Samus Returns. I thought it was very, very mediocre for for a Metroid game. Like it was a very average Metroidvania. But this one looks a lot better. And also, like, oh yeah, I managed to add you in my auto host list and recommended streamers. Yeah, I found that. Yeah, cool. Thanks. Yeah, I just found that now. There's so much stuff in the channel settings that it took me a while to find some of it. But yeah, and again, if you've seen my it looks weird still. I think I overdid it. My like speculative stuff about sequel to Metroid Fusion that I did before the announcement. Like the main thing probably that I made and that I thought made sense and would be a good idea was a focus on stealth with some enemies that you couldn't really take on, that were like Federation enemies. And that is in the game. Like that's actually a thing about Metroid Dread. It's going to be more stealth focused, and there's the big robots that are built by the Federation apparently, that just kinda insta-kill you. Did you like Metroid 2, the Metroid 2 fan remake? Yeah, I like it a lot better than Samus Return. They share some fundamental problems that are inescapable if you're going to remake Metroid 2 as if it was Zero Mission or Super Metroid, because it isn't. Metroid 2 was fundamentally different in its design from modern Metroid. So when you try to adapt the thing where you need to take out all the Metroids in an area to move on, and just the general linear format of the map, where there's like a micro dungeon and then one way where you go to another micro dungeon and then one way to another one, and then you have to clear, you get to traverse these things when you've got enough Metroids. That doesn't work in the structure of Super Metroid and Fusion. It just wasn't built for that. So it ends up as kind of an awkward game. The difference though is that AM2R, which is the fan one, has just so much care put into it and so much personality in the world. Like they took those areas that were just made in black and white with just different textures and a different soundtrack, and they gave them way more character. Like an area was kind of mechanical and stuff, and there's one point where you morph ball through a tube and then you pass in front of a corridor that you normally walk behind. They take that and they made like a whole like mechanical world that's full of different tubes and entrances, and a whole system of kind of semi-fast travel where you get shot around those tubes that you like unlock later in the game. Like the one world that has water, you kind of control the level of the water and make it go down with a thing. Like still kind of maintaining the general map, but giving it so much life and so much care. That's just a really likable game. And the world feels very rich. And in contrast, Samus Returns somehow makes the areas look less distinct. Yeah, definitely recommend it. Samus Returns somehow made the areas look less distinct than they do in the black and white Game Boy Color game. Like they are all just kind of made of this featureless rock that just is a single different color in each area. Like it will be brown in one and then kind of purple in the other, but it all looks like it's kind of made of the same rocks. It's just really boring looking. And there's like walls that you can't wall jump off or whatever. Like, you know, there's wall that has like a certain feature. I don't know if you remember what it does. Like the way they communicate the wall is not like by giving it a texture that's a little bit different. It's just that there's just a plaque on the side of the wall that just is glowing yellow. There's like the water just glows yellow, and there's this really ugly bloom over the whole game that makes glowing things just kind of have an aura around them, and just completely unnatural glowing thing that is in most of the worlds. Like they're all kind of full of it because for mechanical reasons. Like it's a really integral part of how they build the levels, and it's just this ugly glowing thing that looks completely artificial and not like part of a world that could exist. It just looks pretty terrible. The gameplay was good though. The combat was pretty good, the bosses were really good. Is this right? Oh, I just made it too small, I think. Like it's nice that they made kind of sub variations of the Metroids. Like there's an early alpha and a late alpha, so they gradually introduce more moves and stuff that they can do. And they made the combat a little bit better. But in terms of like the personality of the thing and like the world being interesting, this is really terrible. Yeah, Zero Mission was great about you being able to sequence break. Even like one of my favorite things, like my favorite gaming memories is like the first time where I did sub 15% in Zero Mission, which is the way that you get like the best endings. Like it was like 2003 and they had a low percent category built into the game that's so ahead of its time. Like nobody did that kind of stuff back then. Like they hadn't even invented achievements yet on like the Xbox, and they had like endings for sub 15%, and 15% is less than you get if you just get all the items that you'd think are vital. Like it's not it's with zero missile expansions or energy tanks. It's just the levels that you use to the items that you use to progress in the game. but they built in a lot of workarounds and stuff that if you dig around enough, you find ways to break the sequence or to forego an item. So yeah, like half the main items in that game are optional on purpose. Meanwhile, Samus Returns, yes, I've actually even seen like a speed run. I saw the game design quick speed run like a year ago or something. And the only sequence breaks, it's like Metroid Prime, the only sequence breaks are based on glitches. They're based on doing like a really specific thing that even the speedrunner has to like try 20 times to kind of phase through the ground at some point and end up somewhere else. Like, it's not fun. It's not using the mechanics of the game. It's just the game being broken and you glitching through stuff. So yeah, it's built as completely linear. Like, not even within, because I get like the structure of Metroid 2 is linear. It was meant because Metroid didn't have maps until Super Metroid, and it's a portable game. You're supposed to play it in little pieces. So they thought, okay, people are going to get lost if it's just one interconnected map. Like, they're not going to remember stuff. The game's also black and white. It's a lot harder to tell like an area from another. So what we're going to do is do like a bunch of mini what's it called, mazes, like small mazes, and then you clear one and you never have to go back to it. You just think about them one at a time and you do them like this. So sequence breaking doesn't really make a lot of sense. You need to go everywhere anyway because you need to kill all the Metroids. That's just the plot. But within these, there could be like cool different tricks and different approaches, but they want to make really sure that you do everything the exact way they want. So that's kinda boring. Oh yeah, and the Japanese version of Fusion is very rewarding, having low percent because you can see some stuff from Samus's past. I'm so mad that we didn't get that. Yeah, I like those endings, but the implementation was really weird because it's not even that they actively removed those. I've actually seen people get that wrong, where they think those are just the Japanese endings. But those are actually the endings of the game if you choose the simple writing version, because the Japanese kids learn a simplified version of kanji, which is the non-phonetic writing. So there's basically like the kids version where people use more simple vocabulary, like the text is all simplified to make it accessible for kids, and it's written in simple kanji. And they seem to have thought that the regular endings to Fusion were somehow inappropriate for kids, when like Samus is wearing like a top, like the least sexualized endings to like any Metroid game other than Prime, when she never even takes off the armor. Like, it's really not very sexy at all. The kids are fine seeing that. I don't know why they saw the need, but yeah, they're way cooler than the regular endings for Fusion, which are kinda boring. Like, there are a bunch of very interchangeable drawings of Samus. Like, the original trilogy endings were pretty stupid. Like the stuff where you're supposed to be actually interested in seeing Samus in less clothes. Like, there are easier ways to see women in bikinis, man. But anyway, so they moved past that, but they didn't know what to do with it in Fusion, because then it's just that, but not even sexy, so it's nothing. It's just generic Instagram pics. Oh, the Prime games. Prime 1 especially, the first game, is really good. Again, because the world building is really good, right? So they're linear. They're also not that interesting in terms of, oh, so many different approaches. They're not as replayable. They're more meant to be played once. but the world, even today, still looks really good. It's still really rich. The soundtrack is great. So exploring, it's a lot of fun. And you get all the story just reading text stuff, like scanning stuff just written on the walls or the computers or space pirates. You get all the plot that way. So that's really good and well implemented. 2 and 3 is still fine, it's just not as good. The first one's definitely the best of the series. But they did age a lot. Despite still looking very nice, the Prime series feels like very old games. Just playing an FPS where I played a lot of Prime Hunters online mode. Yikes! I'm sorry, man. No, I'm kidding. But I didn't really like Prime Hunters. First because like I don't know why that's a Metroid game. That doesn't really have anything to do with Metroid. But why would you put an FPS on the DS to be played with a pen? Like it's terrible. I also tried Kid Icarus Uprising because like it's made by the same director as Smash Bros. You'd think, you know, it had good gameplay. But it's just really bad to play. Like you just wish you were playing a game with either 2 analog sticks or a mouse and keyboard. It's terrible to hold the 3DS with one hand and like try to do fast paced aiming and shooting with the other hand with a pen. Who thought that was a good idea? Oh, I love that game, but yeah, the controls are bad. Yeah, I can't get over those kind of controls where they try to do point and click stuff like an action game where you have to point and click and stuff with a pen while you're holding the console in one hand. Like, it's a pretty basic story, isn't it? I just feel there's like an ancient weapon or something that they all wanna get. I don't even remember the plot. The main mode is just like tiny maps where you walk around and like shoot completely, like the enemies are just like a incomprehensible polygon because it's like tiny on screen, just kind of floating around when you shoot it and it explodes, and then eventually you just run into one of the hunters and have an AI fight. I don't see the need for them to do that. It's not deep at all, but I like the character interaction a lot. Oh, okay. Maybe that it was a really long time ago, so I don't remember it as much. But I never like went back to hunt it because I just didn't like it. Oops. I also tried Federation Force a while back, and yeah, not interested. It also feels weirdly old, like it feels a little bit like feels like a 90s FPS. Feels like GoldenEye. It's like these really short, isolated, semi-linear levels where you finish objectives inside. So it's like a co-op GoldenEye, which like Perfect Dark even had a co-op mode. think Hunter doesn't even have impact into the timeline at all. I guess it's a very isolated story, but people seem very convinced that Psylocke is going to be in Prime 4. Yeah, Federation Force was a very mad game. Like it just had no business coming out when it did. Like it feels like it's from the 90s. Nintendo just seems kind of really out of touch with what people even want sometimes. But who thought that was a good idea? Who thought they would announce Federation Force? You know, and people would be like, yes, sounds good. That's what I wanted. We haven't had a real Metroid game in forever. I wanted the kind of background guys in a cooperative 90s FPS in a mobile device. So I think, oh no, there's some details left in the, what's it called? A lute. Yeah, her lute has some carvings of ivy and flowers. Kinda looks like a face. Kinda tough to do. I think I'm just going to have the lute not have this kinda, because these are like, it isn't just a pattern, there's like holes in it a little bit. But I'm just going to get rid of it, otherwise it won't be readable. Yeah, and that ball game, you mean pinball? Like Metroid Prime Pinball? That's also a weird idea, but you know, it's a pinball, like it's not really a part of the series, right? Like you don't really consider a Star Trek pinball machine to be, you know, part of the Star Trek canon. It's just a pinball machine. So it's kind of whatever. But I played with it once. But it seemed like fine. Like it's pinball. I don't really see the point like of buying pinball as like a full game in the 2000s. I never got that. Like Pokemon Pinball on the Game Boy Color. Like the Game Boy Color was a really limited device, and people didn't have like that much mobile entertainment, so I guess like a pinball machine, like a portable pinball game is fine. But in the 2000s already, you know, you could have full games for this price, right? No, Federation 4 game has a side game. You have to play some sort of soccer with a big ball. I did not know that, but I did play a level where it's largely based on like using your charge beam to kind of bounce balls in the correct way where they land where they need to land and like to activate stuff. Like the game's very based around completing levels fast. which was a big thing for really early FPSs, right? They used to save demos. Like before, you could even share video online. There was like Speed Demos Archive, where people saved like Quake demos and tried to beat the levels fastest. You know, it's supposed to look like a face. I forgot. So FPSs, also like GoldenEye speedrunning is like one of the oldest speedrunning games with the most, you know, tradition and stuff, because it would tell you your time and you try to like finish a bunch of missions in a really short time. So it's a very old style of FPS. I don't know what they were thinking with that, but yeah, it's very based on like replaying the level and trying to beat it really fast. So there's this ball stuff that you're supposed to be like, yeah, I know just how to hit it, where it will go exactly what I want. But I didn't know. Yeah, I'm not replying blast ball. I didn't know that was a thing. I guess there's also kind of thing that fans made with Halo. One of the Halos had really adaptable rules to how you could set, like you could set multiplayer matches with like a bunch of different rules and like respawn speeds and win conditions and stuff. So they would do, again, there was like a version of Capture the Flag where the flag would was like laying a bomb in what's it called, in Counter-Strike, but the bomb would like explode immediately, so it was just like making a goal, and you could only use hammers. So they basically made hockey in Halo as like a fan thing, and then I think a later Halo game just made that a main mode. So that was probably the kind of stuff they had in mind. But yeah, not much to Federation Force. So yeah, I'm trying to do this description. It's supposed to be like carvings of ivy and flowers that kind of look like a face. So I'm trying to make it like not super obvious. I think this is close enough. Thing is, there will be, you know, chords going over it, so it's gotta be readable through that. So let's see. I have to do a really straight diagonal, but it's working out. How many cards does a loot have? A crap ton. Just gonna draw some. I think they're double chords, at least in that one. Yeah, that's fine. It's also supposed to be a bit worn, so there's a lot of information in something that's kind of small in the sketch. But yeah, I think this is readable. Today I tried to take the advice you gave to me and turn the sketch into a piece of art. Do you wanna see? It would be nice to get some feedback. Absolutely. Send me a link or anything that I can use, and I'll put it up on Photoshop and we'll talk about it. Sounds great. Let's see. Here it is. I wonder if I can find the original. Is the original recently? Yeah, it doesn't matter. Let's just look at the new one. So here we have, oh, sorry, sorry about that. 190, 190. Yeah, it's nice. So I don't know if you were here the other day. We were looking at Bloggin's art, and I was telling them how nice it looks and how it would look really good as digital art. So yeah, it's really neat. I'm thinking how what I could add to it. I like the slight what's it called? Let me look at the tool. Doesn't it have a name? Gradient, that's the word. I like the slight gradient on the colors. That works fine for them. I was thinking solid colors would do fine, but yeah, this also does well. Yeah, thinking what I could even help with. I'd say I'm not that into the background. I think it would work better on its own, in my opinion. I think they're really stark. They're very like icon-like, and they would work well on like a soft color, like just a plain pastel soft color. I think they would stand out very nicely. But yeah, this is really neat. In terms of the lines, I think they could be even thicker and even lighter. I think that would still work. And what else could we say? Mainly, I'm actually looking, let me put it back, because this, my thing, like my drawing thing, makes them look very, I think very bright. But yeah, in terms of color choice, I think you gradually like find your identity. You should definitely think a lot about palettes, like the colors you're going to use. And something that I always do when I'm drawing something that doesn't have like predetermined colors is I mess with them a lot. I was talking about this the other day when I was designing a custom Darkstalkers character. I changed every color a bunch of times until I found the color combination that I thought looked nice. So you experiment with different stuff. One thing, like I don't like, the colors are up to you because they're part of like the creativity of the thing. So I can't like be saying this would look better in this color because it depends on what you're going for. But what I would point out, hopefully you can see what I'm doing here, is that secondary colors can be a lot brighter. They can be more light while still being really saturated, really vibrant. So let me just draw, you know, these two, they're just as saturated, but one is so much lighter than the other. So there's always a thing to keep in mind, because it looks like you want like, yeah, a very nude color. Yeah, there's a new thing. So I'm trying to think like, what would I say to someone who's starting on coloring, right? What are some tips? And one thing, I'll do it right next to it. Like this is the most saturated red. I'll hide my art real quick. This is the most saturated red, this is the most saturated blue, and this is the most saturated green. They are the primary colors of a light addition color, which is what computers use. And these are the secondaries. This is the most saturated yellow, this is the most saturated pink, and this is the most saturated cyan. You see, they're keeping the same saturation, they are so much lighter, but they're way more bright. So if you want to keep this really saturated look that you're going for, I would consider, like, I would think these are good main colors for your composition, that you want to have a lot of stuff that's closer to the secondary colors, because then you can keep saturated and be a little bit light, because I think your designs would look really nice. Yes, this is a compilation of Fire Emblem songs, so a lot of them are going to be from GBA games. So I would probably use these three generally as your primary, like as the main colors of your compositions, because I think your art would look really good in light tones, like saturated still, like I like that you made it really saturated, but I think it's a little bit dark because it's two primary colors at maximum saturation. Like you could make it lighter, but I figure you probably didn't, because then it would lose some vibrance, and it would, because it's resin greens. So maybe when you use a green, when you do a foliage, do a more yellowy green. Let's see if I can do this with, like, doing this in a flat image is kind of rough, but let's see if we can like brighten it up a little bit with a more yellowy green. Oops, that overdid it. But you know, if you go more towards yellow, you can keep maximum saturation and still it'll be a little bit lighter. So yeah, that's really all I feel like I can do, because like in terms of like advice, because it looks nice, like your drawings are so finished already, like even your sketches, they're already really solid. So I think it's just about that. Secondary colors, they can let you keep the saturation while having the tones be lighter, and probably don't bother with backgrounds. Have something like flat, and if you do have a background of a different value from your drawing, because something with really thick lines like this, like I want it to pop out of whatever background. Like if you do want a background, I want it to pop out of that background with these lines. And even though like these values are fine for it, because the background is kind of darker green, it merges with the outline. And then I feel like it loses some of the nice thing about your art, that it has these really thick lines that really separate stuff. And that's basically it. Other than that, it's kind of fine. And also I would say don't be afraid, like, thanks for sharing your thoughts. Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, I wish I had more to say, but really there's not that much to change. It's very fine. Another thing I would say is, like, if you look at your sketch, I don't know what your intentions are behind the shapes and stuff, but like you can sketch something like you had an eyeball in the other one. You assume you want that to be fairly round, so you can use your sketch, and you can just use tools sometimes to like adjust your shapes. You know, if you wanted this head to be more of like a perfect egg or something, you can just use a tool like this. You not to just draw. Oops, I didn't mean that. I meant transform selection. I clicked again. Yikes. Alright, transform selection. you know, you can just use a tool like this to like figure out a perfect egg. Like assuming that the thing behind was the sketch just. Then you could do this. Just select a perfect thing and like paint, you know, just start with some perfect shapes. You can always use those. But yeah, not that much to add. It looks nice. Thanks for sharing. I chose the colors mostly because she looks like a berry. I just put, and these just made sense. Yeah, it's just that, especially for your kind of art, because you have a very surreal style, I'd say feel very free to color stuff however you want. Like, main concern should be it looking nice, and very secondary whether the colors, you know, match what the theme is. Because we tend to, you know, the main go-to thing when we start drawing and we start coloring stuff is to go for very naturalistic colors and to kind of tend towards primary colors. Like, that's basically everyone who starts coloring is going to do that. So I'll just, you know, suggest that you can think about just what would look nice. And I don't know, what program are you painting on? Because it's in Photoshop, I can like recommend some tools or something. Like, I can talk more about the technical part if it's in Photoshop, because the one that I use. Yeah, okay, good. So, if you don't want to separate your colors in layers, I have a quick key for you, so let me see if I can find it. Edit. Is it edit replace color? No? Where is replace color? Strange, but if I open the window, I can probably... Yeah, it's called replace color, the tool that I was using earlier. So if you're here, you can just have drawn it all in one layer. Then you can use the replace. You can see the little window, but you choose a color, then you adjust the fuzziness to make sure how much color you're going to pick up, and then you can just change the hue, the saturation, and the lightness of it. So you can just draw it and then use the replace color to, yeah, you couldn't see, but you saw the effects, right? You saw that her color was changing. Let me do it again in case it wasn't like super clear. Yeah. So you can just use this to play around. So you can just experiment and mess around with colors and whatever, you know. But yeah, I noticed later when I was checking the VOD to see if it looked fine, I noticed that the whole liquify section, you couldn't see it. Yeah. And the result, like, I undid the results really quick, so you could only see like the eye that I had edited, you could only see it for like 2 seconds. But yeah, that replace color thing, it's just really useful to play around and see what works. Like, it's not perfect. If there's a bunch of colors in the layer that you're messing with, it can look kinda weird in the transitions. But just for you to figure out what works and what doesn't, because you can just figure out what colors are going to work on your head. At least I can't. I can just imagine a color combination and know whether or not it's going to work. I have to do it and, you know, then decide if I like it or not. So definitely play with that, and yeah, I don't want to give very specific advice because it's, you know, you're going to find your own style and your own voice. I just want to say with like very technical things, like the stuff about how primary colors are kind of dark by nature, at the most pure saturated form compared to secondary colors. So you see stuff like, if you look at like Sailor Moon or something, it has really a light, it was a very bright aesthetic, you know. It kind of became emblematic of like 90s stuff. People use a lot of Sailor Moon stuff. And basically the signature colors of Sailor Moon are pink, cyan, and the yellows. Like almost all their compositions are based on pink, cyans, and yellows. Like the backgrounds, nighttime backgrounds use a dark pink, daytime background as like dark pink paper, and daytime backgrounds use a light yellow. Like they never actually go into solid colors. There are all these softer things because you can go really soft with secondary colors. And the whole aesthetic is very pinks and light blues, some yellow thrown in. Because it's nice on the eyes, you got to keep it colorful without being kinda harsh. Primary colors can be kinda harsh, like you look at a bunch of really saturated blue and really saturated, like you look at the American flag or something. It's a super saturated blue, a super saturated red, and it's just kinda annoying to look at. Just a lot of intensity. Yeah, I'll actually finish this with a lot of time left to stream. Then I'll have to figure out what I'll do next. Yeah, my picture's a little intense on the eyes, now that you mentioned. It's very nice to get feedback. Oh, you're very welcome. Yeah, it's like the thing we were talking about with Neon the other stream. Like, if I pointed out something that's like, oh, I think this is like a common mistake, it's because like basically everybody makes these things. Like everybody does these things when they start. Like both the things that I had to say about their piece and yours are like those basic every artist makes these mistakes things. Not even these mistakes, like every artist starts out with these habits and you should like examine them, because yeah, you tend towards those things. You tend towards kinda like when you're kids, we draw with like primary colors usually, and we just, you know, put the color where it belongs. The leaf is green, etc. So a fun thing about art is also, you know, discovering new ways to do stuff. Another thing that I really don't like sometimes when people are teaching art is that they have a tone of like, let me tell you the right way to do this, and I try not to do that because I don't think that's accurate. Because everything, like every decision is going to be right for some like goals and wrong for others. So I try to make it clear that what I'm saying is, you know, if you want to accomplish this, I think this approach accomplishes that. Because, you know, people can want something to look really intense. Looking at your style, I just figured that wasn't necessarily intentional. It was just kind of happened because we tend to use primary colors. Color her eyes green. I'm totally just going to do a shape. Irises are so annoying to make. I actually found when I was messing around with configurations, I actually found a place where you can change the subscriber badge things. But again, like I have so much still to add and edit and change around my online presence. Really not a priority because I'm not really expecting to get like a lot of followers right now. There's also like stuff for bit donors, and like I'm not asking for bit donations at this stage. Like I don't think my content warrants that at this point. There you go, that looks so much nicer. Let me mirror it just to take another look and fix it around. Yeah, I think it looks fine. Get back to line and do the outlines. So the other day I accidentally opened Photoshop when I wanted to turn off my computer. So to avoid having to wait for, you know, there's the little banner that appears and then it loads Photoshop for a bit. To avoid having to wait for that and just turn off the computer, I hovered over the activity in the Windows taskbar until the little X appeared, and I closed the banner that usually wouldn't have an X button wouldn't have a close button yet. I closed that, and I was like, okay, cool. And went on with my life. Then I came back, and I had lost all my hotkeys for whatever reason. I didn't lose all my customizations, like my setup was where it was, my recently opened files were fine, like the list of recently opened files. Like, it didn't lose like all my settings or anything, it specifically just lost all my hotkeys. That was more odd than anything. It's actually not that bad, I don't have that many that I changed, but I have my little setup. If anybody's curious, like there are now I do have like hotkeys on my drawing tablet, but I mostly don't use them. I have my 3 basic tools that I use: brush, eraser, and the thing where you pick up a color. What's it called? Eyedropper. I have those in Z, X, and C for quick access down there, because I have it kind of off to the side, the keyboard. Then I have Q makes my brush one size bigger, A makes it one size smaller, W makes it one step more concentrated, S makes it one step more fuzzy. So those are the basic tools that I'm using all the time, and I can just kind of mess with them with my left hand while I draw. Then yeah, Control Z. I changed, because the default in Photoshop is that it goes back one step, but then if you press it again, it goes forward again to where you were before. So it just alternates between the 2 last steps, like undoing and redoing the last thing you did. I don't like that. I changed it so I can press it over and over and just go back and back and back and back. And that is it. Plus I use my own quick keys to invert canvas horizontal, invert canvas back vertically, flip clockwise and flip counterclockwise. I put there in Control plus comma, dot, and like K and L. So just to flip it around, because those are the main things that I use. Maybe when Photoshop opens, check and rewrite the document so close as it expected me, erased left memory, well, I guess, though, yeah, I have no idea, but it was fine. Do you scroll with the scroll wheel? Not really. Zoom in and out is something that I used to just do manually, and now that I have the tablet, it has 2 keys that are like set by default to zoom in and out, and I just use those. I don't even remember what the keyboard keys are, but I don't use the mouse wheel. The mouse wheel actually does this, and anyway I don't have a hand on the mouse. Oh, and it's nice that my pen, and now my other pen, the buttons didn't work on Windows 10. Now I have the little button on the pen again. That's just set to spacebar, so it lets you walk around on the canvas. Like you press the button, then you drag it to walk around. That's nice. And then the other side of the button I have set to right click, just to do whatever. I also do Control Shift R for color replace, because I do use it a lot when I'm like figuring out the drawing still. I also see that you guys can't see my pencil, not pencil, my brush menu. I basically only use basic round brushes, but the thing that I alternate is between this brush, where basically only the width is changing with pen pressure, to activating the transfer tab on the brush tab, so that it's also modulating the intensity. So I basically use this one as an ink pen and this one as a pencil. So I drew this all with the pencil style thing, which let me do kind of transparent lines like you would get by using a pencil softly. I think it gives it a nice texture for the base drawing. But when it comes to coloring, I'm going to want to start by laying out just some completely solid shapes, and for that I go back to the one where width is the only thing that pen pressure affects. So her hair is varying a little bit, but I think the really bright orange seems to be the dominant version. Another thing that I like to do is when there's like a color division like here between the hair, you just draw whichever one is easier to like fill in with a big brush, and then you turn your brush from normal to behind mode, and then you can just do this. Like you can just paint over everything and not worry about the other one. Like I usually do skin first and then like the little strands of hair, because it's easier to cut around the strand of hair drawing the skin, because then you can use a really thick brush, than having to switch to a really thin brush and carefully trace the hair without bleeding into the skin at all. Yeah, I draw in a pretty straightforward way, like using the straight up, like using a round shaped pencil, using the colors straight out. Like I don't tend to use any kind of layer other than normal on my main composition. I just draw because I like picking the shadow colors individually. I don't like just applying, like the shadows are going to be bluish, so just drawing a dark blue shape and setting it to soft light or something, or multiplier, whatever people want to use. I don't like that as much. I like having specific control over what each color is going to look like. And then I mostly use those kinds of other modes of layers in what I call mixing. I'm not sure if that's the correct term, because I don't really have an art education. But when basically the drawing is finished, but I want to mess around with like the contrast or give the general color temperature of the picture, so I just add some layers on top in those modes, kind of mess around with their color, with their percentage of like opacity, until I have something I like. What happened? Oh, I accidentally lowered the opacity on the pencil. And you can use that to kind of integrate if it's more of a realistic picture. Things can you can unify the picture, make it feel more like it exists within space, by having some of those kinds of layers. I can talk about I'm not going to like do a whole thing talking about it when I'm not actually doing it, because it'd be hard for both of me to come up with what to say in real time, and the explanation would be pretty useless without you being able to actually see it. But some of my more elaborate pieces have 2 or 3 layers like on top of everything that are just kind of meant to mess with the lighting a little bit, mess with the color temperature, mess with like bring in some levels, like you could have a lighten or a darken layers to not let anything go too high or too low on like yellows, reds, whatever color you want to restrict. Alright. Going to make the rain a little bit louder. I don't even know if you guys can hear it. One thing I kind of like about Rainy Mood, which is the website I'm using for rain sounds, is that it isn't consistent rain, like it's a recording of actual rain that gets more and less intense over time, so it feels more natural. And it's nice to have these ups and downs when you're just using it for yourself as background noise, but in mixing it with like songs and stuff it's not that great, because sometimes it overtakes the song and other times it becomes inaudible. And are you sure it was raining here? Is it really hot over there? Over here it's nice because it's winter. I enjoy winter, which is easy to say when you live somewhere where winter isn't very cold at all. Oh no, it's freezing, but it's been a dry year. Oh, sorry to hear that. It's freezing, really? Oh, right. I got mixed up. I forget, like, so many of my like followers and people I talk to in on the internet are in the northern hemisphere, that I like take that as a natural thing. Like, people on the internet live on the northern hemisphere. That's not true. You're from Chile, right? Is it because there were a couple of people from South America, and now I'm worried that I'm mixing it up. But yeah, we actually had a pretty cold winter overall, but it doesn't get that cold over here. Even the coldest part of Brazil isn't that cold. Like, it actually snowed in some places, which is very rare. There are a couple of towns that are close to where I live but they're higher altitude. Because I'm at sea level, so no way it would ever snow here, the kind of temperatures that we have in Brazil. But in higher altitudes it can. And they keep like advertising themselves like, oh, it's definitely going to snow this year, so tourists will go over there. Even though it basically never snows, like it just accumulates a little bit of frost like over the grass and trees and stuff like that. There's not actual snowflakes or any kind of any real build-up of snow, but this year was an exception. It actually properly snowed over there. A friend told me once that in Brazil, spring you could swim in the pool even if it was raining, such a warm weather. I have, not sure about spring, but I've gone to the pool in rainy days a lot. It's actually a lot of fun. It's kind of weird. The pool feels warm in rainy days because usually it wasn't that cold before it rained. Usually it rains after it's hot for a bit, right? So the pool like starts out already, not cold. And there's the thing where, you know how you feel cold when you go into a pool and then you get out of the pool when you feel cold again because of how water works? Like when you go into the pool's probably about the same temperature as the air, but it's a lot better at trading temperature with your body, so it cools you faster. But then you get used to the pool and then you get out of the pool and now there's water drying on your skin, and in the chemical process of water evaporating, it steals some heat from you, so it cools you again. There's none of that when it's raining. You're already wet, so there's like no impact to coming in and out of the pool. There isn't that inertia where like you're going to be cold the first time you jump in and you're going to be cold for a while after you get out. So it's really easy to go in and out because everybody's already wet. And it's nice. It's really fun to go to the pool in a rainy day. But it's generally, like, it's really unlikely, but people advise you not to go into the pool if it's thundering at all, because like you're in a very low level, so it's almost impossible for lightning to actually hit the pool, but it has happened, and then like it electrocutes everybody. It's not fun. But yeah, it's really nice to go on the pool in a rainy day. But yeah, I've also heard from people who live in my state, which is like the coldest state, and they'll go in like autumn or something to a more northern state where it's hotter, and people think they're crazy. Oh, it's only 20 degrees and that guy is in the pool. It's like, yeah, 20 degrees is warm. What are you talking about? Like going to the pool at 20 something degrees is fine. Like it's not actually difficult to do that. If you do that here in the summer, you could catch hypothermia. Yeah, I don't know how far south you are. But yeah. It's fine here. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I've only done that in the summer. But our summers, like the spring in a lot of the country is as hot, if not hotter than our summer. Because Brazil goes all the way up to the equator. So there's some places in Brazil where there isn't even like seasons. And the closer you get to the equator, the less difference there is between the seasons. So if you're like on the north of the country, it's summer all the time basically. Because like if you live in like this is the Earth, this is the equator, right? The equator, like on the summer solstice, so here would be December 20 something, in the northern equator, yes, July 20 something, is when the sun is like basically like this is from the Earth's perspective, of course. Like when the sun is spinning, like it's right on top of you in the, what's this called? The tropic. Right on top of the tropic, so you know this is the summer, this is the winter, and these are the equinoxes. So if you live in the equator, the sun is right on top of you actually on the equinox. And summer and winter solstice, summer and winter solstice, the sun is an equal distance from you, that's further than on the equinox. So it really makes no difference, right? You can take one step north or one step south and you change from summer to winter. But it doesn't matter because the real direct sunlight comes at the equinox. So seasons don't really exist anymore if you're really close to the equator. And that's a lot of Brazil. That's why I really wouldn't like to live in other places in Brazil too far north. I like seasons. I like it's not always kind of the same temperature. And I'm not a hot temperature person either. But even if it was always like autumn temperature, which is my favorite, that still wouldn't be fun. I want variety. You know, something to, you know, remind you of the passage of time and like so you can have different times of year with different characteristics. That's nice. Is it true that monkeys are pretty common in Brazil? We don't have them here in Chile. Monkeys are pretty common in like jungles and forests, but in most places where people live, you're not going to like come across a monkey. Like certainly not where I live. Like the native, like in Brazil, there's two main forests like biomes, which is like here you have Brazil. There's the Amazon that's like here. It's not all inside Brazil, but it takes a bunch of Brazil. It's like that, this. And then here is drier, and here, which includes my state, there is the Amazonic forest, I guess it would be called. It's like near the coast. And there are monkeys in that, but you know, I don't live in the forest, so no monkeys. Like I've never encountered a monkey in the wild, right? I've only seen monkeys in like zoos and stuff. But people who are like more rural in areas of like forest and stuff, I'm sure monkeys like show up every once in a while. It's not really me. It's more grasslands, like immediately around where I live. I would be terrified if I encounter a monkey outside the zoo. That would be scary. Well, it depends on the monkey, I guess. like monkeys can be pretty like aggressive and territorial, I suppose. But we have some tiny ones. But I actually don't know if monkey would be the correct term for the really small ones. Like we use monkey really informally. Like people call apes monkeys. Like chimps and gorillas, those aren't monkeys, but we kind of call them monkeys almost as a joke. But I'm going to look up how you'd call the tiny ones that we have here. Yeah, they just call them monkeys. Like this one is one of our like national animals. That's kind of, yeah, it's macaco. Just macaco is a very generic words, basically monkey. Yeah, but we have like miku, which is a word for. Let me put them in the foreground. These type of guys. These are kind of the national animal, kind of. They're in the 100 real bill. They're the golden miku. And I think they're called tamarinds. Aren't they called tamarinds? Tamarind. Yeah, they're called Tamarind Monkeys, which are basically our miku, which are like tiny, cute monkeys. And this is so I guess this is the golden tamarind, which is one of our like national animals. Misconception: it's not actually from the Amazon; it's from the Atlantic forest that I mentioned recently. And they're super cute. Look at them; they're tiny. I think they have the tail, and they're most likely a monkey. Otherwise, they're an ape. Yeah, I think tamarinds like are a type of monkey based on what they said. But yeah, like chimps and gorillas and orangutans, they're not monkeys, they're apes. So yeah, they're super cute, and they are endangered, unfortunately. I don't think it makes a lot of sense for her streak to be in some of this braid that's kind of going around her bun, but not all of it. But just for like aesthetic reasons, I'm going to pretend like that makes sense and make it be like less and less white the more it goes down here. Just because I think it looks nice. Oops. What happened? How's this work? Oh, I picked up the wrong color, right? So yeah. Pretty good. The only reason I find them scary is because they seem friendly, but they are unpredictable, especially chimps. Yeah, chimps are really territorial. Like chimps have wars. A lot of apes have wars. Like when a troop or whatever it's called will like fight another one like really seriously for territory and stuff like that. I was talking about this with my girlfriend the other day. I find mandrills to be like the scariest looking animal. They are those baboons with the really colorful faces. They look like demons. And like baboons are really vicious too. chimps seem friendly in many videos, but then there is the one story about lady's face getting ripped off. Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, people have like they're really smart social animals, so they can be domesticated, I guess. But like in the wild, like they are not to be messed with. They're territorial and they're really strong. And they're not very big, but they're super strong. So yeah, don't mess with chimps. They also throw poop at you, which is a very weird thing. For example, you could survive an encounter with a gorilla if you make yourself look like you're not a threat. But with chimps, there's no way to tell. Really? Like there's no tactic for a chimp. Yeah, I don't know. Like with a lot of these animals, we really only have to leave them alone, right? Like people aren't approached by chimps a lot. Chimps are approached by people. So we can just not engage. Yeah, I don't know. We're kind of assholes too. Animals, you know, can be going into their territory. They're gonna be suspicious. I'm thinking what I'm going to do with these eyelashes. I think I'll just start by painting them hair color flat out. But then I might like soften and blur it a little bit because I don't want it to have such a stark like difference. Oh, we are the ultimate chimp species. We are number one assholes yet. We're at the max level chimp. They'll throw poop at you, we'll throw an entire sewage system at them. There you go. Alright. So I'll take a look at this once it's finished and then I might just kind of make the color less saturated. We'll see what works. I might just use like a 50% history brush to make it merge a little bit more of the skin. Oh, I had an idea that I think is pretty good. Or maybe it's stupid and it won't work. One or the other. So okay, I had this thing where I wanted to have like scrolling like robots, like the little work robots, like the one I have on the other side of the screen here, like looking like they're working on the shop, like just kind of moving around. And I didn't know how to do that, because you can code a web source. You can like give it code, so it's not just a static image, it does stuff. But I don't really know the language, and I couldn't find a lot of like custom code or anything. And just regular images, you can't really program them to do anything. But there is another feature which I'll show you real quick. If I just change scene, I have this little thing going on, like you see, there's like a slideshow. There's like a pre-made thing that lets people do slideshows. So I just put a bunch of drawings here, so when I'm out, you know, you can see some art going on. Anyway, you get to set, on the slideshow, you get to set how long the image stands in place, like how long it waits before it switches image, and how fast it switches between images. So I figure, like my idea, I want to know if it accepts GIFs, because it would work best if it accepted GIFs, right? So I'd make a folder that would have images that are like empty image, empty image, empty image, GIF of a little robot doing its wobbly walk. So it would slide horizontally between them. And so, and put it in shuffle. So at random intervals, this image would show up and then go away. And I would set like the time that it takes, like the speed of the transition, the time that it takes transitioning to be really slow, and the time that it spends in the middle of the screen to 0. So the end result would be that most of the time you can't tell that there are a bunch of empty images just scrolling past the screen. But then every once in a while, a little GIF of a walking robot would just scroll and then like spend 0 seconds in the middle and then like scroll away. And that's the idea. I can also do it without it being a GIF. I would just prefer for it to be a GIF, because they have a really wobbly walk in Super Metroid. They like wobble back and forth, their body angles back and forth while they're walking. So I wanted this really wobbly walk. I didn't want them to be just kinda move in a perfectly smooth motion, kinda like R2-D2, because that's not how it's supposed to be. Yeah, I hope it works. I hope it accepts GIFs. If it does, I feel like it should work. It's also like unnecessarily resource intensive, because I'll be like scrolling huge empty images, invisible images across the screen, so like it uses way more memory than it should have to. But since I don't know like a normal way to do that, I'll just do it this janky way. I'll try it after the stream anyway. I'll try to figure that out. It just sounds like fun. And then like my plan is to separate. Right now my whole background is just one flat image. But I would separate the little display that says RPG Commission right now into a different layer. So I'd have like one robot that can walk behind me, and behind like the other robot, and behind the display that says RPG Commissions, but in front of the screen. And then one just in the foreground, in front of everything, just like the top of its head. Just to give it like a sense of space. Sounds like fun. I even have the GIF ready, because I was thinking, how can I use this GIF? Which is just like the actual walking animation from Super Metroid. But yeah, that's nice. That's... just thought of it in the shower today. color is this? It's kind of blue. Shall reduce the creative and hype? Yeah, I don't know why. Like, it's a time that you just take to think freely, because you're not preoccupied with anything else. You just like you're just doing a thing that's pretty mindless, so you get to think about whatever. So the main thing to have quick keys for are like brush eraser and undo. It saves so much time to just have one hand like set to it, so you can go back and forth immediately. I think they're kind of separated on like the default of Photoshop. They really should always just be clubbed together, because you need to just, have one relaxed hand hovering over the keyboard and have access to all of those. This is the kind of way how you save time, using the behind brush for coloring. Just not worry about anything else, just draw the line you want to draw. You won't, bleed into any other colors. It's great. Oh, also another important thing about coloring. Rarely should you use just a darker version of the same color for a shadow. So like if I took this, I'll just do it early just as an example. So I take skin. If you just go like the darker version of the same skin and do this, like this is really bad. If it's less so. It looks really flat and boring. Usually lights are going to have some kind of temperature, like either a warm, a yellowish light, or and there's more than one light in one room, right? So if you're in a room that's really red for some reason, you're in a room that's really red, but there's regular sunlight coming in. Like the lit part of the face is going to have more of a neutral color, because sunlight has most colors in it. Like it's a little bit more yellow, but really it's white light. But the room is going to be reflecting a bunch of red back at you, so you should make the shadows really reddish if it's a red room. Because the dark parts, they are pitch black, because even if the light isn't hitting you, you are in an environment that bounces like back at you. So the shadows are usually going to have some kind of color in them. Usually the color of the environment is going to bleed into your shadows. But in general, it looks nicer and more natural, like in a neutral lighting. If your shadows are less saturated, then just shift in tone to whatever side you want. It kind of looks artificial and forced and weird if it's the same hue and the same saturation. So that's one thing when you're coloring your things, if there's any shading on them, and again for black and stuff, shading won't necessarily be the best idea. Like, you might find that shading isn't making it better, but if you do, don't just shade in the same color. Like here with the blues, this blue is a lot more blue, this blue is a lot more cyan. You can tell. Actually, you can't see the little color sample thing, but I promise this one's a lot more to the blue side of the spectrum, this one's a lot more to the cyan one. In this case I did that because she's really bright, like she has oranges and greens and blues, like and she's a really animated character, she's very lively and happy. So I want to give her bright colors, and remember what I told you about how secondary colors like cyan can be fully saturated at a lighter tone. Like they are fully saturated at a lighter tone. If I want a cyan that's as dark as this blue, it would be less saturated. And if I wanted a blue that's as bright as the cyan, it would be less saturated. But if the lighter color is cyan and the darker color is blue, they get to both be at their most saturated, while still being at different values. Value is called brightness. So that's the thing about coloring. If you want to like color something and make it look really lively anyway. But here, there's one more color. I'm going to use a really unsaturated yellow, because here it's really dark, but I don't want to use it as dark. I want to just make it kind of unsaturated like this, just to break up the intensity a little bit. But without having a dark element, because I don't think it looks its best. And like other version, like here it's just a scarf and it's pure blue, and she has like fully bright colors. So I'm kind of taking from them both. Like I like it. I like the little like shoulder thing that she's using, but I wanted to keep the brightness. There you go. Now I'm going to do the thing that I do in this style, where I kind of fade the character gradually. Like down here, it's just it just kind of merges into the background. It's not a clean cut. I just happened to do this for my characters from my RPG game that I first did in this style, in this format, with the mugshot plus full body sketch. And then it just became a thing. I actually really don't like doing it, because I feel like it's really inconsistent. I can never get it to look quite in the same style from one character to the other. So I'm not a fan, but I'm kind of stuck with it. That's interesting. All I remember from reading color theory is the stuff about complementary colors and neighbor colors, stuff like that. Yeah, there's also some more basic stuff, but this, I guess that's more like general color theory stuff, and like what I was saying is more like for use, you know, it's more of a more practical knowledge than anything that's like objective fact. No, not really. It's just applied theory, I guess. The whole thing about, hey, if you want to keep the whole thing saturated, you can have primary colors saturated darker, and secondary colors are at their most saturated lighter. So yeah, keep things bright. I think you'd benefit from that. Like, I think your style will look best with really bright colors, like really saturated colors a lot of the time. One or two per composition is generally best, but you know, have a lot of representation on those saturated colors. And there's a good thing to think of, you know, because not good to have the same value, like the same, have all the colors be light or all the colors be dark. So consider using primary colors as the darker ones and secondary colors as the lighter ones. Just as a general rule of thumb, of course, art's not about right or wrong ways or just always following the rules. Rules are meant to be broken. Like even your own rules that you set for a series or something should probably be like a little bit flexible if you think for whatever reason something else would work in that case. Yeah, and again, also, you know, my opinions about art. I'm not the king of art. I also don't have like a consistent style of shading that I use for these RPG things. I gave myself the liberty to use whatever one I think works best for the character. It's like I tend to kind of decide just while I'm doing it, whether it's going to be like cell shading, where it's still like just two tones completely separated, or if I'm going to give it like a soft kind of shading. I've been liking cell shading for this style more, especially because I do these kind of fast. And if you do soft shading fast, I don't know, it can just look undefined and not that great. One thing that I like doing is having cell shading, and then within that, like really soft. I keep forgetting the term. What is it called? Gradients, really soft gradients. Which I will do now by giving her a little bit of a blush. Oh, she's also supposed to have freckles, which is nice. So I'll give her a little bit of a brush and freckles on the color layer. You can see that I do a color layer and a shading layer. That's a pretty normal thing. This is what I was talking about, where some people just use one shade on the one color for the whole shading layer, and then make that layer a soft light layer or something. So it kind of applies the same like modifier to all the colors in the other layer. I don't really like that. I like picking them individually, but that's up to each person and each like style that they're attempting. So just because I talked about it, I'm going to step back from shades real quick and already do the thing that I was talking about. I'm going to take very slight difference, just a little bit redder, a little bit darker. I haven't been able to make my... I feel like I messed with some configuration that I don't know where it is. Because the brush is kinda applying too often. So it kinda makes it less diffuse in effect. I don't know what's up with that. But yeah, really soft kind of shading right here in the middle of her face. Even less for this part. Let's do this. There you go. A little bit on the top, the tips of the ears as well. Them to be a little bit darker. And what if I just do that as lips? Well, she doesn't have too much in the way of lips. They're really divergent. Only one of them has really pink lips. I'm thinking doing this for the lips. I actually think it's pretty nice. Just go a little bit redder, a little bit darker for the lips so it's more noticeable. But I like the fuzzy lips. I think it looks nice. Good, so freckles now. That's interesting. I remember. I see. I like gradients. By the way, I noticed something weird about the first image I've commissioned from you. The colors look different depending on if I saved it as a PNG or as JPEG. Do you know why that happened? I'm not sure which is the intended one. If it's supposed to matter which file format you choose. Yeah, I'm actually, because I don't have like a background in an education in art or in graphic design, I am less knowledgeable than the average artist about stuff like that, like different color formats, like different file formats, how they save colors. I notice that PNGs, like they have the advantage of no compression or lossless compression rather, where you don't have like those blocks and stuff. The image looks as sharp as in any format, but it has these things where depending on where you display them, JPEGs have a lot more or a lot less saturation, which, like, if you open them in Photoshop or in like the image viewer thing from Windows, they tend to look fine. But in some other stuff, like you put them in like most web places, like if you upload them on the internet and look at them, they get really grayed out, and I feel like more so than JPEGs, but I don't know enough about that. So I don't remember. I actually, for a while, I don't know why, I just didn't think a lot about it. I just sent people you just send people JPEGs, because generally websites turn stuff into JPEGs and people tend to mess with JPEGs more. I thought like the average user would be more comfortable with JPEGs, but I don't know why I did that. I just did minimum compression JPEGs, but I figure like PNGs are just better, even if, you know, there's this weird color variation thing that I don't fully know how it works. Yeah, it tends to, in a lot of platforms, the PNG is going to look less saturated. But I feel like if you open it on Photoshop, it should probably look similar. But I'm not sure about that. I don't know what the deal is with colors. Maybe I should ask someone with more like knowledge. So yeah, give us some freckles as well. But they seem to be pretty light, like one of the images doesn't even have them. And only the really cartoony one are they like super visible. So I don't think they want me to overdo them. So back to shades. You don't happen to still have the original Photoshop file, right? I surely do. You want me to take a look at it? Can dig it up real quick. Commissions. I think it was first round. Let me look her name up real quick. Where are you? Maybe you're not first wave, maybe it's second. No? I thought. Oh, here it is. Yeah, I have it. Here's like all your references and the picture. Do you want me to like send you the photo? Yeah, I sent you as a JPEG. Did you like open it and then save it as a PNG? Of course, I can export it as a PNG real quick. Just crop it. And just do it here in real time. It's really wobbly, the crop too. I don't know why it feels the need to also scroll while you're messing with the crop. Like I can scroll myself, thanks. File, save as. Let's save her as a PNG in the same place. Boop. Lossless compression and no save. There we go. Where can I send it to you? I wonder if I can on Tumblr look your name up real quick in messages. Man, I haven't opened Tumblr in forever. I hope there isn't like. Yeah, no. I'll have to load them for a little bit. Oh, okay, thanks. Yeah, I thought you might not want to. But there's like nobody in chat right now. Thought you might not want to put your name in chat. Put your email in chat, but nobody's going to do anything. Compose. It's just my username, yeah, but people might not, you know, they don't know that. Recent. And let's do. And just copy the address here. It's easier than navigating back. Bam. Boom. And there you have the PNG. Actually don't know if this works fine. Wait a sec. Delete this image, yeah. Just there you go. And send. It's going to steal your V-Bucks. You know, when somebody knows your email, they can immediately hack you. No, they can like sign you up for stuff. That you can give your email to a bunch of people that are going to send you, you know, just spam forever. You can actually really annoy someone just by knowing public information about them and being a prick. It's kind of a reason why I don't like make my email readily available. Like I don't put it, I haven't ever just put it as one of my contacts and stuff. Oh, no problem. Literally it took me like a minute. No, yeah, I save everything. Like a lot of my hard drive is just old art. I have like all the way back to when I started commissions and way earlier. Like basically everything that I've posted online also exists in my hard drive. All the commissions I've done, and I keep like the Photoshop files and all that. Just, you know, never know when you're going to want something. Yeah, I like how this one turned out. I think I'm going to do the persona shading for her. She kinda learned by doing the Smash Persona stuff. Like I noticed that's how they shade characters in the Persona series, which is they are basically cell shaded, but there's a gradient applied over, like there's one gradient applied over the non-shaded part and one applied over the shaded part for each color. So you get to add a little bit more richness to it without like giving it soft shading. It's still just cell shading. But I think for her I'm just going to do the gradient because I already did some like detailing on the unshaded part with the blush and all that. I think I'm just going to do the gradient over the shaded parts. Both options are pretty fun. There's also having the shaded parts be flat and use soft lighting on the unshaded parts. King of Fighters 13 looks like that. It looks really nice. This Persona 4 Arena artwork is just perfect. I don't think, like I've only played Persona 4 Arena on a friend's house, and I don't think I've ever seen because I don't have a PS3 or anything, otherwise I'd have played P5, but I don't think I ever looked into like the artwork and stuff like that. Never played the spin-offs, never played the dancing games. I don't even know how those work. Is that like a rhythm thing? But I don't think it's like a real dancing game like DDR or Just Dance, right? I think it's just a rhythm thing. It's kind of weird. Like so goofy. Which is fine. Things don't need to take themselves super seriously just because like the main material is more serious. You can have dumb stuff. It's Aegis from P3 doing a suplex on the protagonist from P4. Yeah, that sounds great. I really think that they don't give canon name to the protagonist. Like I get it, there's a little bit more of a role-playing game than most JRPGs where the main character is more its own character, like they let you roleplay him. But also, you know, he's a guy with his own design. It's not like, you know, like when like Skyrim or whatever, where you're designing a character from nothing and they can be anything. So I wish they just have a way to refer to them. They usually have like an anime name and a manga name. Like it's often different as well. Like each adaptation, they just have a different name. So yeah, almost done with this. A little dark here. This is better. I actually think the eyelashes look fine as they are. So yeah. It's nice when there is an official nickname or title. Yeah, there's also stuff like that, like Shepard from Mass Effect. They have just a thing. They have like the last name is fixed, so you can put your name on your Shepard, but you know how to refer to him because he always has the last name Shepard. And characters like voiced characters can actually say a thing when referring to them. Then a lot of them also have like a title for the person. The whatever. And yeah, you just call them that. Yeah, but before has the most official common protagonist name. Yeah, I think it's you pretty much everywhere, right? I think by that point they kinda standardized it. Makes sense. When I started playing Shin Megami Tensei Strange Journey, which is for the DS, and then there's a 3DS like enhanced version. So I started playing that, and they ask you your name, and I decided to name myself. I think it was Adam. It was a name for A. Just because like it's a really basic name. And then they introduced the robot that kind of guides your ship, and it has the same name. So I just had the same name as the robot, and like that's the main character, like the most, like the character that has most dialogue scenes than any other. And I just don't know when the characters are talking to me or the robot because I happen to give it the same name. That's why I always use the default name if they give you one. Like for the Persona games, I just like googled the names for the characters and used like default names. Especially because like in Japanese, I don't know what a normal name is, you know? I feel weird coming up with Japanese names. I have to take like anime character names because I don't know real like names. I have no familiarity with the culture and what names are common or aren't, or what kind of tone a name sets or anything like that. Feels weird. Don't like it. Yeah, I really got screwed over on that one. And I'm actually not sure if someone had mentioned, like it's before the computer talks, but I was kind of kicking myself thinking maybe I skipped through text real fast and someone had mentioned the computer's name and I just screwed up. But if they did, it was like in passing and I didn't even register it. And then yeah, I just screwed myself there. So yeah, I'm gonna save and history brush here. Then I'm just going to select the colors individually and do the little gradient with a soft eraser. This is what I'm talking about. You can't really see it in this concentration. I'm just going to do it over the skin so you can tell. Like you click once and it's really soft, and then you move and it immediately becomes so much. Like you click once, it's super diffused, right? And then you move it and bam, it gets completely like gets really thick. Right? It's not like the same intensity, but moving, it's like really thick. It's like I'm clicking a million times. I think I changed some setting, and this is pretty bad. Because now I feel like I have to just click over and over to get the effect that I want, and not just completely overdo it, and have it be really diffuse. Oh, I'm in the wrong layer. Really screwed it up. I'm just going to go back to the beginning so there's no mistake. But yeah, you know what might have happened when I was in the when I came back and my hotkeys were messed up. I must have pressed something that used to be my hotkeys and actually changed the setting. Happy about that. Overdid it a little bit. But yeah, like this it's fine. Want to do a little bit more here. This feels a little stark. No, wait. Or not. I think, nah, not really, it's fine. Yeah, I think this is pretty good. I'm having a hard time dosing the gradient, but yeah, I'll have to find those settings again. I feel like her mouth's a little light, the inside of her mouth. Let me fix that using the good old color replace. It's actually not good. I'm not going to be able to use the color replace because I wasn't clean enough in painting it with exactly just one color. And if I widen the selection, then it's taking her cheeks as well. And now it's too saturated. Yeah. There you go. Boop. Yeah, that's a bit better. Could it be the spacing setting for the brush? Could it? It's at 1%, where is it usually? But that should reset if I reselect my brush. No, spacing, like I'm loading my old brush presets. Like I've reset spacing. Oh, but I wasn't at... Yeah, but eraser looks the same. Spacing at 1% at both of them. Yeah, it sounds like spacing, but it really wasn't. I missed my change to buy Shin Megami Tensei 3 physical copy back for the PS2, or now that they released like a PC version. Because I never played 3 and people say it's really good, but like I put it on my wish list on Steam, but they released it. Oh yeah, it says for everything now. Yeah, they released it for Steam, and it's ridiculously expensive for like a 20-year-old game. It's absurd what they're charging. They're charging it like it's a brand new AAA game. And usually that kind of stuff proceeds to go down in price really quickly. Like I think they want to like exploit the super fans and have them buy it at way more than it should be sold for. because that kind of thing that tends to happen with like Steam re-releases of older games that weren't really available in that way. Like they come out ridiculously expensive, but then they go down in price fast. So I just wishlisted it so I can, you know, keep track. Thinking of messing with the very curve blush. Make it a little bit more. Like it's so delicate, I have to like type the numbers rather than use the slider, because you move the slider 1 centimeter, like a millimeter, and it goes completely crazy. But yeah, I just went a little bit harder with the thing. Even then, it feels like a pretty big leap. Let's do 50%. Yeah. Oops, and I accidentally, now that I increased it, I see that a little thing in the edge of her mouth. So yeah, this is done. We have a full RPG commission. All done. I like it. I really like the big face one. Yeah, I was just going to turn off the stream right now. So yeah, take care, you guys. Even with Bargain leaving, there's still 3 people. Might as well raid somebody rather than just shut off the stream. But yeah, have a great one. Thank you. I like. Let's see what is up. Only art person I follow that is up. The Shock Girl. Oh, they do really they do like traditional art, but I'm going to browse. I'm going to browse art real quick, because this is like a multi-platform stream. They don't see stuff properly, like the comments and stuff, and I already rated them before. Like they didn't even notice it was a raid. They just started, you know, slowly noticing the comments, because it's not just a Twitch stream, so they have like the alerts don't even pop up on stream. So I wanna see if I can find someone real quick. By the way, if anybody has any suggestions, artists to raid, I'm always accepting ideas, because I never have any artists that I know streaming by the time I stop streaming, because it's also a time where I'm usually not available. Like I'm not available either to stream or to watch streams. I have to eat and such things. What's this? Let me look at this person. It's English, illustration, guitar, design, creative for followers. Someone really new, I guess, because it looks really nice. Like the art looks really professional, but they only have 4 followers. Do they speak? Let me turn off music so I can tell if they speak. So even if they don't, it's nice art, and I don't want to like keep you guys waiting a million years for a raid. I'll just do it. /raid this channel. Boop. Did it work? Yeah. Alright, we're going to raid the channel. It looks really nice, like it's super professional art, so even if they don't talk, like it looks really neat. So yeah, thank you guys so much for dropping by. It's fun. A little bit of a shorter one, but we got the job done. So yeah, see you guys next time. Bye.